What's up, everybody? Hey, welcome over here. I am Dale Maxwell. This is John Mayhue. This is another chat on all things that kick ass. This is part of our investigation into kick-assery. And the more I talk about kick-assery, the more I love it. It's been so much fun. I've had some phenomenal conversations. And coming the first of the year, I'm going to get a lot more scheduled with these. Right now, I'm just trying to cram as many of these in as we can before the Christmas break. John, I've known John. John, how long have we known each other?
Years. When did we meet? What year was it, do you think? If we had to think of a year back.
2008 or not? 9?
Sounds about right.
Oh, 9? Because you were still in Lawton.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And yeah, probably 09-ish.
So coming on 10 years.
Yeah, 08, 09, somewhere in there. Because it wasn't too long after we moved to Lawton that we met. So who are you, John? Who are you? Where are you at? What do you do? How are you the crazy awesome person you are?
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny that you asked that. You know, a while back I was updating Facebook, and it gives you just about, 4 or 5 words that you can put in there to describe yourself, or at least this was a while back. So I thought, well, I'd say father, entrepreneur, mortgage expert, husband, Christian. If I had to just pop in words, who am I? You know, I've never really thought or been asked that except for when I had to fill that in, and it made me think a little deeper, I guess. You know, I'm like, I have to answer this in 5 words. I could talk about this for a while.
Absolutely. All right. So where are you right now? Where do you live?
So I live in Edmond with my wife and boy, and we have a little Tex cat. So a cat that we call Tex. So it's the 4 of us. But yeah, Edmond, Oklahoma.
Nice. And you're an Oklahoma boy through and through.
Yep, born and raised. Yep.
Yep. A lot in Oklahoma, Fort Sill. Man, so that was a shocker for me. So reason we moved a lot in Oklahoma was, once again, I'm an Army wife. So followed my wife. That was her first duty station. And I get there, I'm like, I'm going to take this business over. I was doing body language at the time. That was, you want to talk about full circle, John. You know, talking right now about the reason I came into the community to what we're talking about today. And I was like, we're going to do this. I'm going to make a difference, and we're going to do this. Yeah, I got a lot of crickets. And it's so interesting to me, brother, how business is conducted so differently in different communities. And I didn't realize that until I moved from Idaho, where I had spent 11 years going to college and building business and building connections, and moving to Lawton, and how business was done so differently. And I'm not saying one way's right and one way's wrong. It was just, dude, I was out of my depth. I was so I was like, what the hell do I do? You know? And that's when we started, how I got involved was BNI.
Right.
That's where we met. And of course, that's a story for another day. But
networking organization for those that don't know what it is. I got to know you, and we became good friends. And it was one of those things that I got to see your massive value that you could take out there to everybody. And it was like you talked about crickets. It was just a matter of getting that and getting in front of the right people so you could provide that value to them. It's like, hey, you don't know what you're missing, but you don't know what you don't know. So it's a matter of trying to bridge that gap, I think. So.
Absolutely. And that's, especially because we were both so young in business, you had been out of college, what, 4 years, 3-4 years by that time?
Let's see. I got in the business in 04, so in 08 I was only in 4 years, but I was doing it while I was in college. So I graduated college in 06. So yeah, you're right. I was still real fresh, even though I've been doing the business. I had kind of been doing everything from A to Z. You hear the term peon, I guess.
Yep.
I did everything grunt work wise, but it allowed me to learn a lot of it too. So you're right. We were both real fresh.
And the thing that impressed the crap out of me, man, was the way you conducted yourself and the way you talked about your industry. And Now, granted, you had a leg up because your dad was, was huge in the industry as a realtor and investor and all those things.
Right.
So, of course, you cheated because you had that knowledge growing up, which elevated you so much quicker. And so, when I first met you and I found out how young you were, I was like, "Horse shit! There's no way. This kid's got this stuff figured out." And you are already very successful and doing very well for yourself. You already own several homes and you're renting homes and you're doing all these things. And it was impressive to me to see that in such a young guy. I'm not saying I'm that much older than you, but it was great to see that.
Yeah.
And
You were probably a lot wiser than me at the time. Maybe not older, but
well, I'll take it. I appreciate that. I don't know about wiser, but I sure as the heck had a bigger mouth than probably I should have had. Because I have a bad habit of not keeping my mouth shut. But on that note, though, one of the things I really appreciated was, we would sit at your house till 2 o'clock in the morning and just talk.
Yeah.
And just run through stuff and go over scenarios and dream and scheme and and all that stuff. And there's you and Sebastian. I mean, dude, I miss that dude so much. And
hopefully he's doing well.
Yeah,
I haven't talked to him in ages.
I haven't talked to him either. I did a little bit of Facebook stalking a couple years back, and it seemed like he was doing okay. But it was just a great time to sit back and do those things and just dream and learn and do all those things. And it was great because there were so many of us so like-minded that weren't saying, well, probably not. We were saying, why not? Right. So tell me, where are you at now in your business? You're still a mortgage guy. Mm-hmm. So between the time we were hanging out then and you still had a couple years under your belt, but what has taken you from there and where are you at now?
Good question. So I'm very blessed. And before I get to go into the mortgage side, you spoke of kind of my background and past and all that. And I think maybe I got that accelerated start simply because of mentors, the right people that, they say God gives us 2 ears and 1 mouth. And you and I both are extroverts. So let's just talk about it and then figure it out. We're like, speaking of, as we talked, I got married this year. My wife's an introvert. She's like, whoa. Let me think on this. And then you come back after a while.
There you go.
But I think what I say in doing that is being able to listen and having the right people in my life that wanted to love on me, whether that be somebody that was in the industry that I first went into and got my job in the business, that offered. I was buying my first house and he said, well, why don't you just come on? Why don't you get in the mortgage business? And that's really kind of how it started. To, like you mentioned, my dad, that taught me a lot of old school fundamentals of you do the right thing, the money will always come. Just old school, just quality things. He turns 80, by the way, in January.
No way. That's awesome.
Yes way. And so, but fast forwarding as far as the mortgage side, my main office is in Yukon, which is right off of I-40, major highway, and the Kilpatrick Turnpike. So real easy access. Very blessed now. I have a full operational team. So I have everything's in office. We don't have to send things out to Jacksonville or Dallas, Texas, awesome. Or any the center it is. And so I can walk down the hallway right here. And we may see somebody pop into my office here. I didn't put any note on my door or anything, but and sit down and talk to that underwriter or that processor or the owner of my entire organization. And so it's a really good spot. I've got a lot of great partners, which I owe it all to. My business is 100% word of mouth referral. And when I say partner, I mean my realtor partners and builder partners. If you guys are listening, I love you guys. Thank you. It's because of you that I get to do what I do. And so that's kind of where I am now, fast forwarding to that, just working by referral and assisting my partners to help people get into homes. I help them finance it. And if they can't qualify, let's find out why. And let's work with them to get them to the point as to when they can qualify. And that's even a bigger piece of it because people get turned away so much of the time. And they come to me and they say, well, I talked to so-and-so and I have no idea as to why I can't qualify. And that's hard for them. They weren't enlightened. And so Hopefully that answers kind of a little bit.
No, and I love it, man. So let's go down that road just a touch. One of the things that my life is going full circle on is, I started a body language communication company years and years ago. I brought it to Oklahoma there, and it fell on its face. And whether it was a timing thing, whether it's a community thing, whether whatever, doesn't matter. Fast
Right.
forward now, 10, 12 years later, 8, 9 years later, now it's finally time to just get it going again. So what I love about communication, and you're in the sales industry, you're in the communication industry, whether we understand it or not, whenever we're selling product, whenever we're taking care of people, whenever we're giving service and customers and the whole 9 yards, you run into situations all the time. Well, maybe not all the time, but I know you run into situations where there's times where you're just like, why is this person not understanding what I'm saying? Or what's the communication gap going here? And in your industry, that's everybody being on the same page is paramount for the success of the
Yes.
deal. Period. There is no discussion. That is it. So
Right.
how do you bridge that gap? There's education gaps, there's income gaps, there's societal gaps. You work with
Right.
all kinds of people. So how do you bridge that gap? How do you talk to people and not at people?
That's a great question. Great question. And you made me think something else about your body language that I actually use in my business. You have to bring me back to that. But how I bridge that gap is we have to understand. Let's say I'm a neurosurgeon and they're going to talk in terminologies to you or I. We're going to go glass eye. We're not going to have a clue.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? You're talking French, as far as I'm concerned. And so I think that the easiest way to put that into one sentence is bring it back to basics. Bring it back to the fundamentals. Everybody's going to think on things differently. So if I'm talking to a first-time home buyer, I might speak a little differently than what I would to somebody buying their 500th home, as an investor. The conversation's going to be a little bit different. And so I have to understand of who I'm talking to and kind of gauge that to where that needs to be best fit. But also, bringing it to the basics would be number one. Number two, asking a lot of questions. Nobody wants to sit and hear me talk the whole time. And so when the conversation starts, instead of me just flowing into that, I may say, well, tell me about what you're looking to do. And just letting them go into it. And that may stem on to another subject, to really questions and curiosities that maybe the realtor should be answering, but it allows me to reel that back in and say, that's wonderful, Mr. and Mrs. Homebuyer. Those questions are really going to be directed to Mr. and Mrs. Realtor that you're working with. With that being said, here's kind of what I specialize in. What does that look like for you? And so I would say trying to make it as simple, because me talking in my terminology all day long is not going to help them at all. Right. So just having a real conversation, keeping it very casual on that aspect, to where they don't feel it's so formalized that they can't ask questions, and then prompting them to answer by asking them questions. And they'll tell you everything you need to know through questions.
Absolutely. So would you consider that that's the process of building that relationship? I mean, do you feel that you are in the mortgage business, or are you in the relationship building business?
Probably the relationship building business with a touch of financing to help them buy a house. You brought up a good point. I may have somebody that'll come into the office and they're what's this guy want to talk about here? What's going on? And this goes into what you're saying. And so it's breaking that. Well, let's talk about what's your rate. I just want to know your interest rate. Well, there's a lot that goes into that, compared to breaking that out and let's have a conversation and find out what's going to be best for you. And then you see that go to maybe, at least it goes from the grumpy face to the okay face. And then maybe they finally loosen up and they set their hands down. And that goes to, I'm like, Dale Maxwell 101. Thanks, brother, for helping me through this. And so that's helped me a lot over the years. I use that in my business.
Well, and it just gives you the opportunity to gauge them at that moment and to understand. I just had a conversation earlier today with a young lady, and there's a certain point where we just have to recognize that person's chosen not to listen. It's done. We're finished. Let's call it quits and move on and do something else. or
Right.
being able to recognize that, okay, they're coming in, they're closed off, they're this, they're that, they're whatever. And one of the things that I've always respected about you, even before you had these tools, is your ability to build relationships. You know, you're ridiculously intelligent. You know your stuff inside and out. But the beauty of it was that you have this intuition to know when to talk about the nuts and bolts and when to just shoot the shit, basically.
Right.
You know, and that's one of the things that, you know, maybe your dad was part of that. Maybe your mentors were part of that. I don't know, but that's one of the things that I always respected a lot about you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Well, it is what it is, man.
that.
So, but yeah, okay. So you said you wanted to come full circle back on body language thing. Was that the crossed up?
Yeah. Well, part of, I mean, to the aspect of, how do you even bring it back to some of the fundamentals that I learned from you of a handshake? Whether,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't remember the names of things you termed them, whether it be a soggy handshake or a, you know, let's do a Donald Trump, I'm going to grab your hand and pull you right over my face, or, you know, whatever it may look like, to how to do that properly and what kind of impression you're trying to give. So, when I'm out there talking to somebody and I know who I'm talking to, of maybe how to interact with them and how to stand, or even feet placement. You know, it's something I
Mm-hmm.
learned. If I'm over here and you and I are talking and I'm more engaged here compared to, at least if we have somebody else enter the conversation, our feet placed are together and we're almost making that circle. To what I guess I want to get to is all of those things I have taken into my brain and stored them somewhere, and luckily they still come out. Maybe over practice, now it's natural.
Yeah.
Um, to if somebody's sitting across the desk from me and we're having a conversation of whether they're laid back and maybe doing some mirror tactics
Mm-hmm.
of the casual, or whether they're very attentive and, you know, they're up close on the desk. And so it's helped me to understand maybe some of where they're coming from by looking at those actions, whether, you know, it's in a crowd and they're closed off and they're not interested really to talk to me, or whether I need to break a barrier to go through, or and I would, if you ever do a class again, I'm in. I want to go through it again. I'm probably really rusty, and it was just really helpful to me as a businessman, and not just as a businessman, but you could look at that as maybe that even helped me to meet my wife for the first time, of understanding the body language that she was giving off to me. So it probably has translated into so many more benefiting factors than just business per se for
Mm-hmm.
me. And a lot of people don't know how big that is, of what the body is telling you, of what somebody else is going from it, or maybe even more importantly, what your body language is giving
Mm-hmm.
off to somebody else that we don't see ourselves, you know, and what does that look like? Maybe we're turning somebody off by the way that we have, or the way that we're presenting ourselves, you know. So that's what I wanted to come back to is, you know, I would love if you have classes or those kind of things. I want to be back involved, and I want to invite more people to it because it's added a lot of value for me.
Well, and brother, I appreciate that, man, and I'm blushing just a little bit. There's you touched on something that's very very important in any relationship building, and in business, our personal lives, our kids, our cousins, the friend down the street. It's
Yeah.
relationship, you know. And my buddy Juan's on here listening. What's up, brother? Is, you know, when it comes to sales, whether we're selling our product, whether we're selling that we want to go have dinner somewhere to our wife, sales is sales. We're selling ourselves every single day of the year, and it's about building relationships, and it's the intent versus perception, intention and perception. You touched on it so well, is that I may be wanting
Yeah.
to be saying this, but you know what, I'm having a really crap day, and I've got way too many things going on up here, so I'm trying to be as open as I can, and I really want to tell you what's going on, and here's my pitch, and here's what I want to do, but am I coming across authentic, and am I really interested in what's going on at the moment? No,
No.
I'm not. You know, so you have to be introspective. You have to be, for us to be able to say, okay, I'm open, I'm present, I'm here,
Right.
so that I can build this relationship, whether it's this amount of time that we have or it's a long term thing, so that I know then I'm here for you. Period.
Right.
That's what it's all about. And I got to give kudos to my buddy Juan that's on here. You would love Juan, man. You'd love him. He is
Oh, cool.
such
I
a
won.
good conversationalist. He really is. He has this ability to connect with people so quickly, and he has the balls to put himself out there at any time. And I've watched him do it a dozen times. We'll be walking down the street and we'll help. Case in point, this is a true story. Walking down the street, we're going to lunch, and a lady's loading lamps into her car. So we stop and helped her. She was struggling, so we helped her out. One struck up this conversation. We found out all of these things, and she's having such a bad day. And he was able to bring light to her day. He built that relationship with her so quickly that she left in a better place than she was before we got there. And it's all because of this dude, right? And that's just that ability to recognize and to respond openly and genuinely, right? Sorry, brother, I love you, man. So that's something also, John, that you're super good at too, man, is that I watch you and you're able to connect with people, and now that you're all fuzzy, you're less intimidating,
Right.
and anyway, I can go on and oh yeah, and here, she actually gave Juan those lamps.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
So, real quick, man, and I know you only have a certain amount of time with us here today. You touched on something that no announcements yet, but yes, I am going to start doing a lot more classes, and I'm going to be doing a lot more on this medium. Where since you and I live halfway across the country, what's really cool is now I can be providing this content to a lot more people. That's scary as all get out. It really is. And maybe I'm the only one that has this issue, but it's easy for me to sit in front of a class of 10, 15, 20, 100 people and do my thing. Whereas when we do it on this, now it's out there for everybody. It's no longer a controlled environment. And I'm excited. I'm scared as hell. But this is going to be good, man. I'm excited for it.
It'll let you reach a lot more masses. With that being said, it'll let you reach a lot more masses. So it kind of it's a positive and a negative. It's like, oh my gosh, I had eye boogers the whole time and no one even told me, and that's on film that everybody's going to watch. But yeah.
So let me ask you, and I don't want this to be about me. So where are you going next? What's next in your business? What's your next step? How are you going from the sexy man to the God figure?
Man, I would say let's take just in as short-term goals would be building up a bigger base for my front end team. Okay. With the amount that I have I want to look at another assistant. I want to look at front end support. So that would be really to be able to take my business from X and be able to double it to Z or triple or quadruple or whatever that may be. So that would kind of be the next step as far as looking at just building that front end team.
Nice. So here's where here's
in line. The support's all there. So it's a matter of just now doing the front end thing. So
right. Okay. So here's my lead in. That was a lead in to where I was going with this is then how do you train your people? How do you take what makes John amazing and duplicate that? Because so many of us, and I'm a great example of this, is that so many times we've tried to build teams or we've brought people on, but we haven't duplicated ourselves and taken what we've learned and what's made us amazing and not given that to other people. How do you do that process?
Well, I think part of it is, and I've learned a lot over the years, and this is still going to be, I think, a learning curve for me and my new goals, to where I've had multiple team members that I've placed inside of a real estate office to help me in originating loans for business, and had somebody in a different town for me to help with that area that I no longer live in, per se. With that being said, it's never really worked efficiently because people are like, well, I want to work with John. I don't want to work with Sally Sue or Jim Smith. And so through that process, what I found is I still need to be that person that is meeting with my partners and meeting with my clients. So when I say front end support, I'm not going to necessarily be duplicating myself, but duplicating my administration help to be
Okay.
with follow ups, to be helping with paperwork. And so more of that assistant, production assistant or loan partner or whatever you want to call it as far as terminology. But to allow me, Dale, there's probably maybe, let's say, 100 duties that I do as a loan officer, right?
Yep.
Well, I'm probably amazing at 3 of them, And so what I want to narrow that funnel down into is to where I can focus on those 3 and hire the 97 other out. And that's my partners are going to appreciate that. My clients are going to appreciate that. It's just going to make me that much stronger of a value that the Mayhue mortgage team will be able to bring to them. So over time and study and those kind of things, I've learned that I don't need to be duplicating myself out there. So there's 5 or 6 Johns out there trying to meet with people and doing things. John just needs to funnel in to do those specialty things that John does well and have other people hired on that can help with that. And that's just being very candid about it,
Dude, I love that you went there, because I was kind of going there anyway. Is we all are amazing at something, right? We are all amazing at something. And unfortunately, and once again, I'm preaching from the pulpit, unfortunately, we try to fix the crap we suck at. And there's no fixing Dale's suck. There isn't. I've tried. It's not going to happen. And I'm still struggling with, and I'm still trying to find out what I am really good at. I am so freaking excited that you have identified what John kicks ass at. Yeah. So tell me, what are those few things that John, that you kick ass at?
Right. Well, before I go into that, what you said about focusing on your strength, I don't know if you've ever done strength finders. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard that? Okay, mm-hmm. Awesome. So Rhonda, if you're out there and you're listening to this, is kudos to you. I went through that and I did my strength finders because you just hit on something very important for our viewers out there. Focus on your strengths, maximize those, because those weaknesses are a lot more challenging and it's really depressing to focus on those.
Yep.
If we're going to go there. So what I do a really good job with is getting out there, making connections with those referral sources, those realtors, those builders, and showing the value that we already have and just educating them on what they don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And so they don't know necessarily, if they don't work with us, the value that we can bring to close their clients at a quicker rate, to offer a less expensive of an interest rate, less than cost. And so that's where I'm going to be my best, is in bringing that. And also that first initial time with our client.
So FaceTime and building the relationship. So you are the relationship builder and the educator. Is that kind of way I'm understanding it?
The deal. Yep. We would say like in closing the sale, like adding that to it.
Right. Okay. And then everything else, all the support piece, then you say, here are the professionals. Here are the people who are insanely good at this piece. This is their job. They are going to take that part so that we know for a fact every base is covered. Everything is good. And every step along the way, like you said at the beginning of this, you have your partners and you have your staff and you have everyone, so that every piece of the puzzle that has to come together for this. Let's be honest, to buy a house, there are so many steps and pieces and moving parts, and it's just crazy. So that's awesome that you have established that. And I think the other thing, and we'll leave it with this, man, I think one of the other things that's really hard for a lot of us is, I'll speak for myself, is that part of the reason that I have struggled for so long to accept that I'm only good at 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 things is, I guess maybe it's a little arrogance, is that I can do everything. I'm an old farm kid. I'm an old ranch kid. We had to do everything, And so growing up in that environment, it wasn't that, I kind of suck at welding, so I'm not going to do it. No, if something broke, you went and welded it. And if it looked like crap, you welded it again,
That's right. Yeah.
So it's hard for me, and I know I'm not the only one out there. It's hard for me to say I am not good at these things because that pricks our
Yeah.
pride. That
Yeah.
that pricks our arrogance. And to say I'm letting go of
Well, that's
these
hard
things.
to do right there. That letting go, that's hard to do.
So how did you do that? How did you go from I am all that there is, I am the one-stop shop to being able to let that go?
And I haven't necessarily, let's say, let that go because I don't have those new team. That's my 2018 people that I
Okay,
want to bring in.
awesome.
I would say coaching, um, deeper, I guess, analysis into who John is and understanding that, deeper viewing and understanding and what my business dynamic is, because I'm able to do very well and produce a good amount of business. But if I can offer my value at a larger level, don't I owe that to
Right.
other people in society and to my partners? And don't I owe that to myself and my family?
Yep.
And so, in order for me to step up to that next level of business that I know I can do, John can't do everything. John's got to do what John's good at and then let all those other things go. So, in comparison to John doing everything right now and producing at this level and being able to help this many families in their homes, well, if I take those 100 activities and then I go to 3 activities, you could see it probably how that could easily be a 10x in my
Yeah.
business or a
Yep.
5x in my business, not just a double, because I'm going from 100 things to 3 things.
Right.
And so, that's kind of, I guess, that realization has happened. And so now I know I want to go there because I know of what that will allow me to do and how many more people would allow me to help.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you touched on something, and I keep saying this at the end, but we keep having amazing ideas here. You touched on something that um, was phenomenal to me, is that we all have a part of us that we say to ourselves, I'm amazing, right? I'm great. But our self-confidence issues and in the stupid things that go in our heads keep squashing that down. But here's something, a business philosophy that I saw a while ago that was phenomenal to me, was that it's my responsibility as a business person with what I am amazing at, not going out and peddling anything and everything, but whatever I'm amazing at, whatever I'm great at, it is my responsibility to share that with the world. It's my responsibility to take that and multiply it, right? And what you do, of course, is so imperative to growing families and growing economy and
Right.
growing businesses. So yes, I love that you said it that way, brother. I love it. So we're gonna roll because you got better things to do. You got to go fix all the problems of the
Better
world
things than
and go
talking to
kick
the
ass.
famous Dale Maxwell? No way.
What?
I said
What?
better things than talking to the famous Dale Maxwell?
Well,
Come on.
I don't know about famous, but I'm as good of a bullshitter as anyone around. So we could go there. But brother, this is not going to be the last chat. If you're willing, after the first year, let's sit down, let's schedule out because I'd like to talk more business, and I'd love. I've actually been asked to do some talks on communication ethics, conversation ethics. Business, not business entity ethics, but more of and not even ethics. That's the wrong term. My brain just went soft. Basically, courtesy and how to be cordial in business specifically, because it seems like this pendulum's kind of swinging the other way, where we're getting a lot more hard nosed, like lick it and stick it sales mentality coming back
Yeah.
into the workforce. And so I'd love to have another conversation skewed more that
Sure.
direction. Does that sound good?
Absolutely. I'd be honored to be on.
All right, man. All right, brother. I appreciate you. Just keep rocking your world. Congratulations on your marriage, man. I'm super proud of you. I really am. And I brag on you all the time. People start talking. I'm like, yeah, well, this mortgage guy I know back in Oklahoma, he's killing it. So just keep killing it, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on, buddy. I miss you. Love
I
you.
miss you too,
Appreciate it.
man. Miss you too, brother. Love you tons. And everybody, I'm building a YouTube channel around this as well. So I'm populating all of these chats onto a YouTube channel. Once I get it up to where I want it to be, then I'm going to kick that out of there as well. If you guys know of someone who would be a good chat, I'm picking low hanging fruit right now. I'm talking to my buddies and my pals and the people that I personally know, that I am so blessed that I know guys like John who are killing it, that are just kicking ass. But there's more people out there, and I'd love to expand my network, and I'd love to expand the opportunity for other people to hear about kickassery and what this is all about. So jump on, kick me some ideas, guys. Keep rocking it out. We'll see you soon. Talk to you soon, John.